Tonight on CFTK-TV News, we look at a story involving vaccines in the terrace area. Another update on the Israel-Hamas war has come out, and there's some good news regarding buddies.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond it. First off, this is some important information for people in Terrace as well as its surrounding areas regarding vaccines, and not the ones that may immediately come to mind.
In a report recently put out by the Northern Health Authority, it was revealed that in a timeframe spanning from October 2022 and November of this year, over 400 people from Stewart, Terrace, as well as nearby local First Nations, got some vaccine shots that were stored at temperatures higher than recommended. However, none of those shots were ones that protect against COVID or the regular flu. Some of the vaccines that were affected are said to include Rabavert, which is for rabies, Hypertet IG, which protects against tetanus, Varivax, a chickenpox deterrent, and Hep A Havrix, meant to stop hepatitis A. While there is said to be no risk to the health of anyone who may have gotten one of these shots, health officials are said to be recommending that whoever got one of these shots should probably get them again just to be sure they worked. Next month is reportedly going to see special clinics being held in Terrace for people getting a repeat vaccine, although other northern clinics might potentially start earlier. The Northern Health Authority will contact everyone who did get an affected vaccine and help them, if they need to, get an appointment for a redone vaccine. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin.
The company constructing the Trans Mountain Pipeline said that its request to permanently increase tolls for oil firms using the route is both reasonable and justified. Trans Mountain Corp stated in a new regulatory filing that the higher tolls are required to support increasing project costs. The company wants to charge oil firms a toll almost twice the amount of a 2017 estimate, as construction costs went from being estimated at $7.4 billion to the most recent forecast of over $30 billion. Trans Mountain last said the pipeline crossing BC from Alberta saw costs rise due to compliance requirements, Indigenous accommodations, extreme weather, the COVID pandemic, and more. A BC university is set to begin offering the first ever Nisga'a language fluency bachelor's degree, available in September in the region of 2024. The University of Northern British Columbia is said to be working with the Wilp Wilhosk Nisga'a Institute in order to deliver the program. UNBC also said the four-year undergraduate program is going to involve a Nisga'a language component in about 70% of the available courses. The Nisga'a in northwestern BC was the first nation to sign a modern created treaty in the province of BC and a landmark deal that's been active since May of 2000. Residents in both Masset as well as Old Masset have been made aware of an upcoming emergency department service reduction taking place at the Northern Haida Hospital. In a press release on the matter, Northern Health said the reason for the reduction is due to some ongoing nurse staffing challenges. The hospital emergency department will be unavailable beginning at 7 a.m. tomorrow on December 21st through to 7 a.m. on December 25th. For any non-emergency care needs, the hospital primary care clinic is said to have walk-in appointment opportunities. There are signs that a new pause in fighting between Israel and Hamas could be possible. The White House says discussions for a humanitarian pause, including a possible hostage release, are very serious. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, seen here meeting with Iran's foreign minister in Qatar earlier today, is now in Egypt. Haniyeh, who usually lives in Doha, has traveled to Cairo with a high-level delegation for talks with security officials there. Meanwhile, work is underway at the United Nations to get the U.S. to either abstain or vote in favor of a ceasefire resolution.
Amid displacement of an unimaginable scale and active hostilities, the humanitarian response system is on the brink.
A vote was expected to take place on Monday, but is now set for some time today. Passing the resolution will likely hinge on the U.S., which has used its veto power to block a previous resolution calling for a ceasefire. Coming up next is a story looking at some doctor retirements. Welcome back. Now to the latest sign of major gaps in the healthcare system. 2 family doctors on the same day told their patients that they're retiring and that there's no replacements. It means thousands of people in White Rock and Victoria are now left scrambling to find new doctors. CTV's Rob Buffum reports.
Nearly 4,000 patients just got the word they'll have to find a new doctor in Victoria.
I know a lot of people are like me, are looking for doctors like this, and to see one doctor go is heartbreaking.
This clinic is closing at the end of March because one of the family doctors here is retiring.
I'm so nervous and just very, especially when you have your elder person.
Dr. Lauren Verhulst says 45 years in, it's time to retire. He couldn't find a replacement willing to take on the gig, and says the province should step up and help pay the cost of leasing and running an office like this to make it more attractive for future doctors. He feels like the system is letting patients down.
Imagine you go to the local school and you want to enroll Johnny in grade 2 and the school says, sorry, we're not accepting new pupils. Well, that's the situation in medicine.
This is not the only doctor's office where patients got bad news in the last few days. The same letter went out to patients.
At a doctor's office in White Rock, one of those patients, BC United MLA Trevor Holford, who tweeted about his disappointment.
I have a community that is full of seniors, and that is where my my focus is because a lot of seniors in my riding do not have access to a family doctor.
The health ministry told CTV in a statement, "We recognize the stress it puts on patients when a clinic closes or they lose access to a primary care provider. That's why we're hiring more primary care providers, including family physicians, and changing the way we compensate them so it's more competitive. We're also reducing barriers for international medical graduates to work in BC." This family physician says the new payment model rolled out this year is helping retain GPs, but she wants to see data about how many more doctors are needed made public.
Improve transparency, better leveraging of data that they have.
So the million or so patients without a family doctor in BC, now joined by an extra several thousand, aren't left with unanswered questions.
What are you going to do now? What we are going to do?
What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
The theft of catalytic converters in BC is a multi-million-dollar problem that could leave drivers without their vehicle for months. Repair shops say more needs to be done to crack down on these thieves. Michelle Bernoro has more.
Car to car to car, they just buy brand new blades every time, and it literally takes 45 seconds.
45 seconds for thieves like this one in Coquitlam to steal a catalytic converter.
It's been constant. It's been like this for, 2 years. It's gotten really bad in the last year.
At Jan's Precision Auto Body in Langley, they've seen a recent spike in thefts.
We had a guy come back probably a couple months ago, had his second one stolen, and the police told him just to not put one back on.
In fact, the shop itself has been hit.
Super frustrating for us because not only do we have to call the customer and say, hey, your catalytic converter's been stolen, but usually we're on the hook to cover it.
The most recent stats available show that in 2022, more than 6,100 catalytic converters were stolen in the province. That's an increase of 60% over the previous year. More than 5,100 of those in the Lower Mainland. Catalytic converter thefts cost ICBC more than $14.3 million last year alone. Delta, Coquitlam, and Abbotsford all reported a jump in thefts earlier this year. Abbotsford police say by targeting known offenders, their numbers have dropped. Surrey RCMP say a program launched last spring to crack down on catalytic converter thefts is working.
Numbers have gone down, and I would say the campaign itself and the awareness has played a huge part.
The campaign allows Surrey residents to have their vehicle identification number etched on their converter for free at repair shops.
If somebody has stolen a catalytic converter that actually has somebody's driver's license on it, now we can prove that this was a theft.
The Public Safety Ministry says despite legislation that requires metal dealers to collect personal information from anyone selling a catalytic converter, we recognize that catalytic converters are sold outside the framework of registered metal dealers.
This is one that we've replaced.
The repair shop owner says more needs to be done to crack down on thieves and the businesses they sell to. Michelle Bernoro, CTV News, Langley.
Now to a good news update on the growing rabbit population on Granville Island. There were concerns that they would have to be culled, but many of the bunnies have been caught and are now enjoying life at a cafe. St. John Alexander explains.
Getting plenty of attention now, not to mention the grub. 2 mums, an aunt, and a whole lot of youngsters have no idea how lucky they are, because only weeks ago their fate didn't look so good.
It makes me really happy that we're able to save these bunnies and provide a space for them that's secure and where they're safe from predators.
About a year ago, a pet rabbit was abandoned on Granville Island, and within no time, there were dozens. Demonstrations were held when it looked like the animals were going to be trapped and euthanized.
They deserve just as much a right to life as any other animal.
As a result of that, Rabbitats was able to come to an agreement with Granville Island to catch these rabbits.
The Bunny Cafe on Venables is home for now, a spot where visitors can get a coffee and pay admission to spend time with rabbits. Eventually, staff will adopt them out, but first, they need to grow a little more before they're separated to ensure they don't do what rabbits do so well.
Once they're of age to be spayed or neutered, then we will be looking for foster homes to help care for them during that process.
It's a big relief that these bunnies are getting the help that they need.
Anyone interested in adoption is carefully screened because rabbits are one of the most popular pets. They're also one of the most abandoned. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is likely to see rain at a low at around 7 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is said to have rain mixed with snow with the low at 2 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is expected to get some snow with its low down at -3 degrees. On the North Coast, their upcoming week is pretty much only going to consist of rain and nothing more, and a high going between 8 and 4 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their week should see mostly rainy and or snowy conditions with flurries, and the high shifting from 2 degrees to -1 degree. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, their week should also see lots of rain, snow, and flurries, with some potential sun mixed in, and the high bouncing from 2 to -4 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is slippery sections, water pooling, and compact snow sporadically, so anticipate delays as you go, and the Esk Ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 35 and 118 have some slippery sections. Highway 37 has fog patches, compact snow, slippery sections, and bridge maintenance. 37A has bridge maintenance and compact snow of its own, and some more fog patches on the Nishka Highway, and Telegraph Creek Road has some slippery sections. Again, please drive according to the conditions and ensure that you have the proper winter tires mounted and torqued on your vehicle as required by the BC Highway Act. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is a bombshell court ruling involving Donald Trump. Welcome back. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's Republican rivals are now responding to a bombshell court ruling in Colorado. The state Supreme Court ruling Trump cannot appear on the Colorado primary ballot in March because he engaged in the January 6th insurrection. NBC's Liz Landers has more.
In a historic decision, the Colorado Supreme Court ruling that former President Trump is ineligible to be president under a little-known part of the Constitution. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment bars anyone who, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding office. A watchdog group in Washington called Crew sued on behalf of Coloradans, saying Trump was ineligible under the provision due to the January 6th Capitol attack.
Donald Trump is the only person to blame for this. I understand that his supporters may be upset that he could be off the ballot, but he needs to look in the mirror as to what he did on January 6th and the days leading up to it.
The court ruled 4-3 that Trump, quote, engaged in an insurrection. Meantime, Trump hitting the trail last night in Iowa.
2024 is our final battle.
Not mentioning the decision on stage, but fundraising off of it. The Trump campaign telling ABC News that they will swiftly file an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, setting up another unprecedented decision. The news already making its way to voters. One of Trump's supporters last night.
I don't feel it's truly crazy that they're removing him.
And even Trump's Republican primary rivals defending him.
We don't need to have judges making these decisions. We need voters to make these decisions.
I do not believe Donald Trump should be prevented from being president of the United States by any court.
Vivek Ramaswamy also pledging to remove himself from Colorado's GOP primary race. And now the Colorado Republican Party threatening to change their primary to a caucus. This ruling does not apply to a party caucus, which are controlled by the parties, not the state.
Walking around the city at this time of year, you can see a lot of Christmas decorations, but one town south of the border is taking it to another level. ABC's Will Gans has more.
There's Christmas magic in these mountains.
Magical. Festive. Wonderful.
With more than 500,000 Christmas lights, making this the most Christmassy cosmopolis south of the North Pole.
Good morning, America, from Leavenworth, Washington.
Nestled in the foothills of the towering Cascade Mountains of the Pacific Northwest, the business of Christmas is booming.
This last weekend was a 20% gain from the pedestrian counts over last year.
Decorating starts in early October, taking a team more than 1,000 hours, with lights weighing a total of 6,000 pounds. Erica Bowie and her family, now 3 generations strong, run Leavenworth Reindeer Farm.
I'm able to see 1,000 people a day that come to me and they go, I can't believe you get to live on a reindeer farm and do this for work.
What would you say is the biggest misconception people have about reindeer?
Reindeer do not eat carrots.
What?
Reindeer need soft foods to eat.
The Gingerbread Factory celebrating 35 years of sweet success.
We just keep baking. We have a line out the door and we're shipping as well.
Do you have a favorite creation that you've made?
Yes.
And?
It was a Seahawks stadium.
And the gumdrop on top?
We've become a lot of people's family traditions.
It's an incredible joy. And the fact that we get to be a part of these folk stories is an honor and a privilege.
Now to a surprise for some unlucky cruise passengers. They thought they were setting sail for the sunny Bahamas, but instead found out last minute they were heading to a very dreary Boston and eventually Canada too. ABC's Trevor Alt reports.
Best friends Lakia Allen and Val Montgomery had dreams of sunshine when they booked their family's Christmas vacation aboard the MSC Meraviglia. The ship seen in this online promotional video was headed to Ocean Cay in the Bahamas. But less than 24 hours before their voyage, the families got an email from the cruise line saying because of bad weather, they had significantly altered the itinerary. And instead of going to the Bahamas, they were going the opposite direction.
It is 40 degrees.
The families had the option to cancel, but they were already in town, so they climbed aboard the ship, bound eventually for Canada.
It's cold, like wind blowing, cold, like officially cold.
On Monday, while briefly docked in Boston, an East Coast storm brought them heavy rain and gusts of wind nearing 70 miles per hour.
I never fathomed that we would be back in cold weather.
In a statement, the cruise line says unseasonable weather would have made it impossible to safely reach the Bahamas, saying the only alternative would have been to take the more extreme step of canceling the cruise and thousands of people's vacations outright. They did offer the chance to cancel and put the full value paid for this cruise toward another at their convenience. But what are your rights as a passenger if your trip is suddenly heavily altered? The answer is complicated.
Cruise lines have what's known as a contract of carriage. It doesn't guarantee any ports. The cruise line is within its legal rights to change those ports.
The bottom line is to follow the weather closely and get trip insurance, and maybe consider packing a few extra layers.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 7/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is down $4.40. Oil is up 28 cents. Natural gas is down 5 cents. Aluminum is down $20. In Toronto, the TSX is down 238.82 points. The Venture Index is up 4.30. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 475.92, and the Nasdaq is down 225.28. Still ahead is a look at the latest Canucks win on the road. Welcome back. The Vancouver Canucks continued a strong road trip with a dominant win in Nashville.
Here's Quinn Hughes the other way. Hughes with a pass to Teddy Bluger, and on goal he scores! Teddy Bluger put it on the forehand and chipped it up under the bar. And
the Canucks were rocking and rolling in the Music City, earning a 5-2 win against the Predators. Quinn Hughes became the first defenseman in Canucks history to reach 40 points this season in less than 40 games. Vancouver has now won 6 of its last 7 contests. They close out a 5-game road trip tomorrow night in Dallas. That's all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin, and thanks for watching.